Mysteries of Michigan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the next installment of Mysteries of Michigan. As always, I am your host, Tom Velasquez, and thank you for listening. Also want to thank you for the Podbean hits. Holy cow, the Podbean account is blowing up. I actually got a notification from them stating so. So thank you very much. Keep up the listening. I appreciate it. Keep up the comments, and this thing is really taking off more than I thought so. All right, this show today, I don't think it's going to be too long. I just want to go over something we went over last show and then start our, going to do a couple show segment on the Dogman of Michigan. But first, last episode, I talked to you about the Midland, Michigan Bigfoot. And if you didn't listen, the Midland, Michigan Bigfoot is a Bigfoot that apparently likes pizzas and Nutter Butters. Anthony Padilla is the person who claims to have a spiritual bond with a shape-shifting Bigfoot that changes into two scampering doe as they run away. Well, got a lot of comments on that show, and one person in particular actually is an acquaintance of Mr. Padilla, and told me a little bit more about it. There's a lot of stuff we're not hearing on the news about exactly what's going on with Mr. Padilla, and it's just a case of the news sensationalizing things so we get into them more, so it doesn't seem so nut. It's just another case of the news sensationalizing a story, taking out the good parts or bad parts, leaving in the good parts. We're not getting the whole story. At the end of the segment of the Midland, Michigan Bigfoot, I posed the question, is there a Bigfoot in Midland, Michigan? And I said no. But there is a psychopath in Midland, Michigan, and his name is Anthony Padilla. Well, after hearing everything, a little bit more of what's going on, I guess I kind of feel bad for calling him a psychopath, because I think he's honestly insane. I guess my biggest question is, who is guiding Mr. Padilla? Who is looking at Mr. Padilla going, hey, this Bigfoot thing you got going on? Go to the press with it. Go to the cops with it. It makes you look totally sane. No, it doesn't. It makes you look like a raving lunatic. Is a psychopath a strong word? Yeah, I guess so. But listen, guys, I'm hearing more and more about this. Apparently, Bigfoot does not like Oreo cookies. He loves pizza and Nutter Butters. But when you put out Oreos, he takes the two and splits them in half and sticks sticks in them and doesn't eat them. Well, we know what not to bait Bigfoot with now. You don't bait him with Oreo. You bait him with Nutter Butter and pizzas. Now, all during that show, I kept saying Midland, Michigan is not a place where you would expect to find Bigfoot because there's not a lot of wooded area in there. Come to find out, Anthony Padilla has 15 acres of property. Fine, 15 acres. You're not going to hide a Bigfoot on 15 acres. However, it gets better. Only 4 acres of that is wooded. So not only is Midland, Michigan not a hub for Bigfoot, but he's apparently hiding in 4 acres of wooded area behind Mr. Padilla's home. When asked, how can a Bigfoot hide in 4 acres, the response, and this is great, I love it, giving points for creativity, somewhere in that 4 acres is a vortex. That vortex is a pathway for the Bigfoot to come in and out of. So all this time, all these years, all these Bigfoot hunters have been looking in the Pacific Northwest, into the national forest, miles and miles of wooded area, all along, they needed to be looking in Mr. Padilla's 4-acre lot for the vortex. Mr. Badia, again, I apologize for calling you a psychopath. I really, truly do. However, I seriously think you are in need of medical help. And the same goes for the people, again, that are guiding you, that are telling you, hey, talk about this Bigfoot thing. That's a pretty good idea. Because all it's doing is making you look like a lunatic. Maybe you are. That's fine, all right? Just don't bring it out in the news. And shame on you to the news crews that know more of this story than they're leading, but continue to pump it up, knowing that there is something wrong with this guy, but they're not telling you. They're only telling you the bits and pieces of the story that they want you to hear so it looks really good. Shame on you. Case in point why I say don't listen to the mainstream media. They are going to steer you wrong every time. This guy is in serious need of medical help, and they want to sensationalize this guy by concocting or continuing to concoct the story of his Bigfoot. And the Bigfoot Research Organization, BFRO, holy cow, did you lose some legitimacy with me. If you're out here looking into this and seriously looking into this, knowing what this guy is telling you, it ain't going to happen. There's no legitimacy in that. So, Mr. Badia, again, one more time, I'm sorry for calling you a psychopath, but the challenge and the offer still applies. Please come to this show and prove to me and prove to my listeners that Bigfoot exists on your property. Oh, I would love to go to your property. I would love to see this vortex. My question is, why don't you go into this vortex? Go to the Bigfoot land. Maybe you can walk through that vortex and find numerous Bigfoots roaming around. They got an amusement park. They got Bigfoot roller coasters. It's a jolly good time. Please, please do not listen to the media, and shame on the media for sensationalizing a story that is genuinely a story concocted by some type of lunatic. This guy is not right in the head. So, just thought I'd give you a little bit more insight on that beware of the vortex. Maybe it has to do with this polar vortex that is giving Michigan such cold weather. You never know. And by the way, what is a polar vortex? As of last year, it was known as a blast of cold air from the Arctic air. Arctic air blast, I think is what it called. Well, apparently that wasn't scary enough, so now we're going to call it a polar vortex. Right out of the movie The Day After Tomorrow. I don't care what it is. All I know is it's freaking cold. I'm sick as a dog because of it. In Ecuador or anywhere near the equator looks really good right now, but knowing my luck, I'd move down to Ecuador and all of a sudden the Earth's poles will shift and turn it into Antarctica. And Michigan will be the warm spot. Polar vortex. Jeez, oh Pete. Okay. We're going to go into a quick little commercial from some guy writing a book. I know you've heard about it, but he's still writing it. At this rate, it'll be out in 2050. Hopefully they still have digital print back then, or at that point. But let me know what you think of the book. I need a title. Somebody give me a title for this book. The guy that's writing it is drawing a blank, and he really needs some help with it. So listen to what the description is, come up with a plan, come up with a title, and there's little goodies in it for you. We'll be right back.
Coming soon, the zombie survival novel from the hosts of Mysteries of Michigan, Tom Velasquez. Follow Mike Locke as he traverses through the backwoods, across the rivers, and through the government quarantine zones of mid-Michigan as he searches for his family who are holed up in their home, trying to survive the impending zombie apocalypse. Can Mike Locke get to his family in time? And if he does, how will he
All right, we're back.
Find out shortly.
Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you, more people, have probably heard of the Beast of Bray Road, which is a quote-unquote shapeshifter werewolf from the Wisconsin area. However, Michigan has its own quote-unquote Beast of Bray Road. They call him the Michigan Dogman. There's a lot of conflicting reports. A lot of people think it's an urban legend. However, I'm not so sure, and the reason for it, the Dogman was first recorded in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan, which is by Cadillac. But the sightings, they've been reported in several locations. But the thing about it is they're primarily located in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula. And to me, that lends some credence to the whole Dogman thing. Because if you have an urban legend, if one person sees it, another person is going to get wind of that. And they're going to spread that rumor, and then it just continues to spread until it's a huge multi-area phenomenon. Well, this one, while there are places that do report these dogmen, not in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula. Most of them are in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. To me, that makes me think that these people might actually be seeing something. But let's get into the history of it. Again, first reported sighting, 1887 in Wexford County. The sighting was in Wexford, which is by Cadillac, I believe, and two lumberjacks saw a creature that they described as having a man's body and a dog's head. All right, not too specific, but it was exciting. In 1987, 100 years after this first sighting, or first recorded sighting, disc jockey Steve Cook at WTCM-FM in Traverse City recorded a song titled The Legend. He initially played it as an April Fool's joke, but he based the song on actual reports of the creature. Now, this song, it became one of the most requested songs on that station, which tells me this station plays crap. He sold cassettes of the songs for $4 and ended up giving the proceeds to a single animal shelter. So that animal shelter got $8 in proceeds from that song. That's pretty impressive. But I joke. In 2010, the creature was featured on an episode of Monster Quest. Now everybody says, okay, this song is what people are basing their sightings on. Well, before this song, there was a film called the Gable film. And the Gable film was a film that was found in a stack of movie reels, and it just had a, how do you want to say it? It had a small paper attached to it. And it quickly attained what they call viral status. And what it is it's a 3.5 minute reel-to-reel film, and it starts off very innocently. People riding snowmobiles, chopping wood, a German Shepherd. But towards the end of the person filming this is driving down a dirt road. Now, every time I drive down a dirt road, I make sure that I'm going to film it. Why, I don't know, but hey, people seem to do that. And as he's filming, running alongside him is what appears to be a quote-unquote gorilla-like creature, because we see gorillas all the time in Michigan. Well, if I see a gorilla-like creature, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to get out of the car and go towards it. But apparently this guy decided, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. He got within 150 feet of this thing. And 150 feet, you think about it, is not a lot of distance between you and what you have no idea what it is. Well, the thing stops, looks at him, and then charges him. You see the camera just jostling around, and then the last thing you see is, quote-unquote, I use that a lot, quote-unquote, muzzle and teeth. Then the camera drops to the ground lying on its left side. Oh my gosh, everybody's like, oh my God, that's a wolf, that's a wolf, that's a werewolf. Well, if they would have stopped there, it would have been a pretty interesting film. But as the case, then a lot of people that are making hoaxes, they can't get enough. Oh my gosh, look at how well this one did. Let's make another one. So a second film entitled The Gable Film Part 2 surfaced later, which shows a police investigation that was recorded in the first reel, during which the officers of the scene were examining a corpse, which is presumably the corpse of the person that was taking the film, the original Gable film. Now, first off, again, if you're going to hoax something, and that hoax turns out really well, and people are like, holy cow, this might be real, stop. Just stop right there. You've done your job. But no, most people in that situation say, ooh, this is really good. let's move from this, let's keep going, and they ruin it, which is fine. I would rather know it's a hoax, but you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. No one to stop. No self-respecting police organization is going to let a guy walk around with a video camera, filming them, investigating, and then filming them looking at a corpse that was supposedly killed by a werewolf. Stop while you're ahead, please. So the film, not surprisingly, was considered to be a hoax. However, that didn't stop people from seeing this creature. And what I want to do now, I'm going to go to a quick break, talk about Prism, and I'm going to come back with a series of sightings that I pulled off of Creepypasta about the Dogman. These are just a touch of them, and I'm going to basically tell you what I think about them and see what you think about them. So we will be right back. I want to let you hear something from Prism, and then we'll come back and we'll hear about these sightings. Talk to you in a bit. The Paranormal Research and Investigative Society of Michigan is a family-operated paranormal research group based out of mid-Michigan. Formed in 2010, Prism has conducted numerous investigations that have yielded some very interesting results. With a team of true believers and skeptics alike, Prism assures you of the most comprehensive and accurate investigation possible. If you feel you are having paranormal activity or any activity you cannot explain, please contact Prism at 989-413-0430, or you can find them on Facebook at PRISOM. As with any Prism investigation, yours will be done free of charge, and all steps will be taken to ensure your privacy. Again, if you have any paranormal activity or activity you cannot explain, please contact Prism at 989-413-0430 or find them on Facebook. Prism, the Paranormal Research and Investigative Society of Michigan. Prism, as it stands right now, has been on a little hiatus. The founder has been dealing with some health issues, and because it's been 40 frickin' degrees below zero all winter here, Prism has not been out investigating like they want to. However, if it ever warms up here in Michigan, they plan on getting back into the swing of things. So if you ever have paranormal activity, let me know and I will arrange Prism to come out and investigate for you. All right? Okay, with that being said, back to the Dogman. We're going to start off at Big Rapids, Michigan in 1961. Now, Big Rapids is the home to Ferris State University. And these accounts are written out. I'll ad-lib them as I see fit, but you'll get the gist of it. Big Rapids, 1961. This gentleman was a boy, and his father was a night watchman at a manufacturing plant located in a rural area between Big Rapids and Chippewa Lake, Michigan. It's an area that was known back then as Haymarsh, but it's now officially called the Haymarsh State Game Area. Well, one night in the summer of 1961, while his dad was on work, he walked back to the house to sit on the porch and have a cup of coffee and a sweet roll. First problem, while you're working, sitting on the porch having a cup of coffee and sweet roll. Think you should be working? Maybe you're getting paid to work? I don't know, just saying. All right. Well, apparently this house was right across the street from the factory. Apparently it's a perk of a night watchman job. And he had a good view of the entire plant. Well, he saw some movement near a chain link fence behind the building. Apparently, since this was approximately 3 a.m. in the morning, he felt sure that the person there was not there by accident. So he drew his gun, ready to shoot the guy, no questions asked, when he noticed it was not a person at all, but something much taller. He said it appeared to be covered in brown or gray hair. It had broad shoulders and a powerful chest. It alternated between walking on 4 legs and standing up on 2. He said it appeared to be looking for something along the driveway. Well, he said he couldn't believe what he was seeing, so he quietly moved into the house and grabbed his Kodak Signet 35mm camera, which, according to his son in his statement, was his pride and joy. Screw your kids, your family, your wife being your pride and joy. If your pride and joy is a 35mm camera, reevaluate your life goals, please. Well, the son justifies it by saying he is quite a photography buff. Whatever. Get your life on track, dude. If you are if your pride and joy is a camera, you've got your priorities all screwed up. So as he stepped back onto the front porch, the creature moved slowly along the driveway directly under the lights. Now he adjusted the camera shutter for a long exposure, held it as still as he could. He said he was shaking pretty bad by then. Now who knows how many cups of coffee he had while sitting on the porch doing his quote-unquote job. And he snapped a picture. Now, this picture I'm going to post on Facebook, and I want you to let me know what you think. It's pretty interesting, but you would think he'd have a better chance to, or get a chance to get a better picture. So, after that, he dropped down to all fours and moved off into the woods. Apparently, this picture was sent to the local paper and printed, and several copies to several magazines. One of the magazines, Mysterion, published the photo in the spring of 1962. He still has the negative and would like someone to examine it. And thank God he also has Dad's Pride and Joy camera. Because golly, if it, I'm honestly surprised Dad didn't get buried with it. But, that's just me. So I'm going to post a picture of what this guy shot with his Pride and Joy on Facebook. I want you to give me an idea of what it is. This one's a little intriguing. There is something there on the picture. What it is, I don't know. So this is going to go into the unknown files, which is basically what this show is about, is unknown. So we'll chalk that up to a good one. Next one happened in Sparta, Michigan in 1987. Sparta is about 20 minutes north of Grand Rapids. And this gentleman and his two friends were staying at a cabin. Two of his friends left for dinner, and this gentleman stayed behind in the cabin. Well, following the dinner, the two men headed back to Sparta. And they were on a dark and rural road. Suddenly, both of them saw something standing by the side of the road. It appeared to be a human-like figure covered in gray fur. As they got closer and past the figure, both of them got a very good look at it. It was the size of a man, stood on two legs, it was covered head to toe in gray fur, and had a wolf-like face. It even raised its hands and seemed to snarl at them as they drove by. They said it looked like a werewolf out of a Hollywood movie. Now, aren't we quick to judge here? First off, this thing might have been lost. What you attribute as a snarl could have been a cry for help, saying, "Hey, pick me up, dude, I'm lost." But no, we're going to sit here just because he looks like a wolf and think, "Oh my God, this guy's going to eat me." But this story gets better. Of course they didn't dare stop. They continued driving. And as they were driving, they were peppering themselves with questions. Did you see that too? Was that a dog? Was that someone dressed up in a costume? How many dogs do you see standing on the side of the road? I mean, standing on the side of the road on two legs. I want to know what those guys had to drink at dinner. As they were driving, they passed the sign that says, "Welcome to Sparta," and drove through the small main street and continued on to town in direction of the cabin. As they continued their conversation, they both looked up at the same time to see the "Welcome to Sparta" sign again, and they had to follow the same main street they had driven through only a few moments ago. They hadn't stopped, they hadn't turned around, they continued driving. So not only is this standing dog a werewolf or a shapeshifter, it is also a being that can alter time. This is an absolute joke. Sparta, 1987. You're going into the junk file. I think you guys were drunk. You shouldn't have been driving. Who asked a question, was that a dog? How many dogs do you see standing on their hind legs that are 6 feet tall? And give the guy a break. He was probably lost. All right, next one. Reed City, 1993. This Reed City area has been a hotbed of dogman activity. This event occurred nearly 20 years ago, in 1993. It's over 20 years, but she remembers it like it was yesterday. Her name is Courtney, and this took place in the winter of 1993/1994. Courtney, which is it? 1993 or 94? Come on. Well, apparently Courtney was a teenager and sneaking cigarettes behind her parents' home. Way to go, Courtney. If you're going to sneak cigarettes, maybe you do it somewhere away from your parents, not just outside the house so you come in smelling like smoke right from the get-go. The sun was setting on a clear, cold day. Courtney was facing a large abandoned barn on the property next door. According to Courtney, the barn has always kind of spooked me. It was filled with rusty old equipment, because rusty old equipment is spooky. The outer planks were all rotten, and it sagged and leaned in every direction. My dad said to stay away as the whole thing could collapse. Well, why wouldn't she stay away? It had spooky, rusty old equipment in it. Courtney took her eyes off the barns for a few minutes, then something caught her attention again. There was some movement. The light flickered, but I couldn't really tell what it was. Then it turned its head back and looked straight at me. It was at least 6 feet tall, if not more. It was dark colored. It had a dog-like appearance, pointy nose, and really big, pointy ears. Courtney dashed into her house to grab a flashlight, because she couldn't see it, although she could describe it to a T. There's my first heads up. Why grab a flashlight if you're looking at it? What light flickered? Obviously there was light there, so why would you have to go grab a flashlight? You obviously could see the thing. You could see the big pointy nose and the really big pointed ears. So why grab a flashlight, Courtney? Or you're running to get a lighter for more cigarettes. Courtney dashed into her house to grab a flashlight. When she returned outside, she shined it on the barn door, but the animal was no longer there. She walked closer to the barn to look for tracks in the heavy snow. When she didn't see any, she realized the creature might still be inside and ran back to the safety of the house. She never saw the creature again. Maybe use the flashlight you just got a hold of. Shine it in the barn. Pretty smart. She later talked to a neighbor who had seen something the size of a buffalo but the shape of a dog in the same barn a few months before Courtney's encounter. The neighbor said she had been so frightened she was near hysterics for days. Her father had taken his gun and searched the barn but found nothing there. At the time of these events, neither girls had heard of the legend song and did not know about the Michigan Dog Man legend until years later. So my question would be, if I'm Courtney and I tell my neighbor this, and my neighbor tells me, oh my gosh, I saw something in the shape of a dog the size of a buffalo in that barn, wouldn't you tell your neighbor, hey, don't go near that barn, there's a buffalo-sized dog over there, it might eat your head off? What kind of a neighbor is that? I'm not sure what I think about this one. I'm leaning towards the ant file, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe it wasn't cigarettes Courtney was smoking. Maybe she was smoking a little of the ganja. Don't know about that one. So we'll move on to Water's Meat, 1994. This one comes from an anonymous contributor who grew up in Sheboygan County, but spent many summers camping on her family's property near Michigan, or in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Near Paulding, and oddly enough, the Paulding Lights are also known as Dog Meadow Lights. So, this girl, again 13, had just gotten new rollerblades for Christmas, and since the main road where our property sits is paved, I couldn't wait to ride around. I went blading by myself and stopped to rest for a second. On this road, the woods are so thick, there's not much space between the road and the woods in most parts, and I remember seeing trees pushed down on the road that my dad said was done by bears. He was an avid bear hunter. I remember not hearing any of your normal sounds of nature, not even birds, because I always am listening for birds and can note when there's no birds singing. Really. Quit adding shit to the story. The air was still and the sky would be pure dark in not too long. I was deciding to turn back when I heard a rustling behind me and something emerged from the left side of the road. I assumed it was a deer and paused and made myself as quiet as I could so I could watch it. I slumped down on my stomach in the middle of the road. Good God, girl. You're 13 years old. Don't you know better? You're on a paved road, so obviously that road is fairly traveled well. You don't go hiding yourself on the road on your stomach. Oh, I'm on my stomach. I'm going to look at this deer. Here comes a semi. Splat. I didn't see anybody on the road. Must have been laying on her stomach. Think. Think for a change. When I got myself settled into the road to watch it on her stomach and looked up, I realized that I wasn't looking on a deer. It was looking at a deer. It was on all fours with gray-brown fur. At first, I feared the worst, thinking a bear had caught my scent, until I saw its outline and color. I thought I was looking at a dog until I realized the face was too primitive. Somebody please tell me what too primitive means when dogs haven't changed their face in years. not since 1920. They underwent a major plastic surgery in the 20s. Looking like a fox or a coyote, because they're so primitive. At that point, she'd never seen a wolf in real life, and it wasn't too far for me to make out the face exactly. Now, as a side note, the Michigan DNR had always recognized that wild wolves still roamed in the Upper Peninsula, and they do. They said they're unlimited or very limited numbers, but hey, they just got done with a hunt because they're getting too populated. This is 1994. I don't think there were a lot of wolves back then, so I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. It extended its front legs and in the slowest, longest seconds of my life, stood up on its hind legs, sniffed the air, walked about 5 steps, then got back down on all fours and walked on the other side of the woods, and then disappeared. I don't know how long I laid in the middle of the road staring at that empty space. I saw this thing stand like a human. I remember my jaw hanging down as low as I could, in a pool of drool on the cement under it. It finally clicked in my mind that perhaps I should rollerblade my butt back to camp as soon as I could and get out of the frickin' road before I get run over by a semi. Alright. This one, intriguing. Pretty good description. However, dogs do get up on their hind legs. They do sniff the air. Walking 5 steps, not too convinced about that. I don't think this was a dog, man. I think she might have seen a wolf. But that's just my opinion. My biggest concern is, why are you sitting in the middle of the road on your stomach? I can't get that out of my head. Alright, next one. Alpena, 2001. This guy and his dad had an encounter, which is always a little bit leery to me. Dad's story took place in the mid-70s. There's a cemetery behind the Alpena High School and a wooded area behind that. There are many trails that run through there, and in this area, there is a place called the Sandies, where all the young kids would go and party. My dad and 2 of his buddies were in a canoe in broad daylight paddling from the Sandies around the back of the cemetery. The banks of the river are 10 to 12 feet high in places, and some trails running right to the edge. The 3 of them saw what looked to be a big dog running behind them on the trail. They didn't pay much attention to it until they heard a splash, saw it swimming, and it went from a dog paddle to basically coming out of the water, wading after them. They decided not to wait around to see what it was. Honestly, I thought it was BS at the time, and I'm not even sure to this day if it was something they had done smoking or drinking. Thank you. Now I don't have to say it. His son is right on the money there. Drunken, stoned people. Well, his son apparently sees the same thing. 2001, 2002, he was leading some friends through the Sandies trails, and he used to like taking people out there without a flashlight and telling them his dad's story to freak them out. Sounds like a heck of a nice guy, doesn't he? Jag off. And of course, this time there were girls involved. Chivalry is not dead, gentlemen. Take your girls out to the woods, tell them a freaky story, but don't bring a flashlight. Well, he says he decided not to scare him that night. He's such a gentleman. In the river, there are several small islands connected by a small sliver of land, and at that time there were 3 such islands chained together. I took them through to the last one, which is planted with nice pines in even rows. Well, I was the first one back there, about 30 seconds ahead. So this guy, he knows the girls are freaked out like there's no tomorrow. They're going through dark woods. Rather than comfort them, what does he do? I'm going. I'm seeing you. 30 seconds ahead. Count 30 seconds. Think of being in the woods. Think of a jag off in front of you, knowing you're scared to death. He decides to run off 30 seconds ahead. What an idiot. Well, one of the girls got her foot hung up on something. Well, that doesn't happen in the horror movies. As I was going back to help her, there was a spot where the trees made some sort of roof effect, which is really cool looking at night with the moon shining through. At that point, I saw something, I'm not sure what it was, but it sent me running out double time. When my friend saw my face, he didn't see a word, he just followed, both of us dragging the girls behind us. Well, what did he see? Well, I told him I thought I'd seen something on the other end of the island walking through the trees that was very tall and not likely human. That's his description. Okay, maybe Anthony Padilla's Bigfoot was out there. if you're going to give a description and call it a dog man, the description can't be it's not likely human. That's it. So, you're out of the unknown files. You're into the stupid ass scaring girls for no apparent reason thinking it's cool file. Alright, last one. Bendon, 2007. Bendon is close to Traverse City. Now this person wishes to remain anonymous because he is a prominent person in the local government. Well, the situation started on a Saturday night around midnight when he was coming home from a friend's house in Benzonia and taking the back way home to Traverse City. He started traveling down Cinder Road several miles outside of the town of Bendon when he observed a pair of eyes reflecting off his headlights ahead of him. Thinking it was probably a deer alongside of the road, he began to slow, thinking that maybe the deer would run out in front of him, so he didn't want to get hit, apparently. As he got closer, however, he stated that the object was much larger and much darker than a deer. He said that by this time he had slowed to around 30 miles per hour and was at that point several hundred feet from the creature, which still hadn't moved. As he approached further, he stated that the only way he could describe the creature was being similar to a very large, dark wolf. However, he observed that this thing was not on four legs, but was upright on his back legs, standing near a road-killed deer. He estimated that the creature stood a little over 6 foot tall and had very dark fur. He stated that by now he was going slow enough to bring his truck to a complete stop on the road and observed the creature, which had not yet moved and was still staring at him. Kind of unnerving. He told me that for a brief second he believed that the object was a giant stuffed animal put there some kind of joke due to the fact he had never seen this in his life. But he was able to drive up on it close enough and without it having moved an inch. That's why he thought it, apparently. He told me, however, that before he could finish that thought, the creature then dropped to all four legs, sprinted across the road, and disappeared into the woods on the other side of the roadway. He stayed frozen in the seat for a minute, wondering in the middle of the road what the heck just happened. His friend asked him, "Hey, have you been drinking?" And if they dead serious face, he said no. Whatever it was real. As perplexed as he was that night over what he had seen, he was deathly afraid to go wandering in the woods to investigate further. He said that in using a flashlight, he observed an animal's track leading into the woods on the opposite side of the road and was fortunate enough to have a digital camera with him. He showed me a photograph of a paw print, which he said appeared to be 7 or 8 inches long. Apparently, he put a shotgun shell in the middle of it for scale. He told me that he was lucky that the side of the road was so soft because he wasn't willing to go any farther than 2 or 3 steps away from the road to get to, or road from the door of his truck to get to the picture. If I see a 6-foot wolf man on the side of the road staring at me, I ain't getting anywhere out of that truck. So, this one, I like this one. This is, out of every one I've read, this is the best one because you have a local government position or prominent position in government who doesn't want his name held out, so he doesn't want the fame. But you have a time and you have a road. You have a lot of things that are coming together here, and his story is kind of believable. It's not far-fetched. It's not out of the ordinary. It's not. It gives a description of it. It's not unlikely human. So, I don't know. Pretty interesting there. So, all right, we're going to end the show here. Holy cow, this is a longer show than I thought. We're going to end the show here. This is the first step. I'm going to continue on the Dogman on future shows, but I wanted to give you an idea of what we're looking into. If you've had any instances of dogmen sightings or know anybody that has, let me know. And I want to hear them. I want to get them on here so we can find out what the heck's going on. So, thank you for listening again. We're 40 minutes, almost 41 minutes into this one. I hope it fits on file, but I'll make it work. So again, keep the Podbean, keep the iTunes, keep the YouTube, keep the Twitter, keep the Facebook popping like it is. I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.